What's up, everyone? Welcome to Dawgs Down South, coming to you live from the Orange Bowl here in Miami, Florida. Just kidding, but I have a nice backdrop behind me from Miami, Florida, in the Hard Rock Stadium, where the Orange Bowl will be played tomorrow at around 4 p.m. So we are nearing the end of this college football season for the Dogs. And obviously, there's some games to be played on New Year's Day and Eve, and a couple of games that are pretty important that are going to decide the national championship. But the cool thing is Georgia tomorrow plays a team that thinks they should be still in the running for the national championship. So we'll start right there tonight. Welcome. This is not our last broadcast for the year. This is actually the first of many to continue to draw up to spring practice, and we'll keep this going and talk recruiting news. Intermittently, we'll hop on and just talk about any just kind of eye-popping news that's going to be going on here in the I would call it the kind of the dead months of January and February, where coaches get a chance to kind of get some wind under their sail and kind of get out of recruiting full blast and so on and so forth, and be able to maybe spend some time with family until early February, when there's National Signing Day. Not National Early Signing Day anymore, but National Signing Day happens in February. And then obviously March kicks right back up into spring practice. But before all that, a lot to talk about. Hadn't been on since Christmas, so Merry Christmas to everyone. I hope everybody had a great holiday season coming into the new year in just a few days, bringing in 2024. And a lot of things have happened since I was on last. Really exciting things to talk about. A couple of those things, obviously a couple of big pickups in the portal. One of the biggest names that Georgia picked up in the portal on Christmas Day as a Christmas present to everyone was Trevor Etienne, coming to us from the Florida Gators. Huge pickup for Kirby and for Georgia as they go into next year. Obviously, some key pieces that are going to be still in play next year, with Carson Beck saying he's coming back. Still don't really know anything on Dejan or Kendall. All the roads lead to probably going to go pro, but we still don't know. There's a lot of people out there, but Trevor Etienne is a big signing, and I will tell you that there's a lot of good talent coming in. I know everybody's looking at what's going to be going on with Branson Robinson recovering from his patella tendon injury. So we're curious to see what's going to happen with that, and see if he gets back strong and where he's supposed to be. And we had so much, who's to say a guy like Branson Robinson, how he possibly could have helped us this year. But I would say that if he comes back healthy next year, with some of the new incoming freshmen, as well as whoever might be returning. Obviously, you look at Andrew Paul returning, Rod Robinson returning, and the depth that you're going to have as far as returning experienced backs in the back. That's the one thing that, I mean, there's plenty of talent that's going to be back there, but you kind of wonder, like, all right, so getting a Trevor Etienne, who, yes, will have to come in, learn the system, learn the Georgia DNA, but I think that will transfer. He's a very talented back, and I can only imagine what he's going to do behind an experienced line, in a line that, I mean, if you look at line play from Florida, I think it probably ranked in the lower tier of the SEC. And so and he had some great stats this year, so I can only imagine what Trevor Etienne can do running behind the Georgia backfield. And so that's a huge get on Christmas Day. It was a Christmas present under the Georgia Bulldog fans' Christmas tree. Little added excitement to the year. Obviously, when you look at the transfer portal, and we're up to about 20 players, the bad news is it's 20 players, but in all, like, the good news is that, a lot of people have been talking, and it's just like, you got to understand, you can only have 85 scholarship players, and with preferred walk-ons and things of that nature. We're carrying around anywhere from 110 to 115 players. And so it kind of gets to a point when you're playing for competitive football teams and with NIL and everything it's doing, it's kind of getting to the point where when the rubber meets the road, whether you got to figure out, all right, am I going to actually, coaches have to have meetings with people and go, hey, look, am I actually going to, get to the field this year? I need to make the best decision for myself. But also Georgia's looking and going, we need to make the best decision for the team as well and where we see the direction going. So there's a lot of honesty going on there. And then kids have to make their own choice. NIL is based off of, its name, image, likeness, and it is money related, but it's also, there's a lot on the line for these players. Some of these players are going all in on their athletic careers in football. And so if they don't get enough, shall I say, footage on tape to be seen, to give these scouts what they want to see so that they can get drafted and get onto an NFL team and make a good living. Some of them have the opportunity to make a very good living through NIL right now. And so it's a very interesting dichotomy of what's going on right now in college football with NIL. But I will say, to the benefit of Georgia, there was some huge pickups, and we're not going to go through them all because we're going to talk a little bit about some hot topics coming on around bowl season, and preview the game and look at what's going to be going on with the game and predict the scores tomorrow. And we're going to predict the Rose Bowl and we're going to predict Rose, Fiesta, Orange, and Sugar. So that'll be fun. But looking forward to the game tomorrow night. I think all in all, if you look back the day that Georgia and Florida State were picked to go to the Orange Bowl, you were going, man, all right, this is very competitive because this is two teams. These are both teams, I guess you would call it as, snubbed out of the college football playoff bowl. So you got Florida State, you got Georgia who basically lost in the SEC championship, and it felt like they should have been there. And with all fairness, we've all talked about it. It could have gone either way. Do I think there's more out there to say Georgia should have been in the top four? Yeah, but here we are. We're in the Orange Bowl, and Florida State's 13-0. And would there be 20 less players that are not going to play in the bowl game playing today if it was a top four matchup? Probably, because there's more to play for, and I think that's what the 12-team playoff is going to bring next year. I think it will bring back excitement to bowl season. I think it will give even less attention to those other bowl games, those early bowl games. Which, I'll be honest with you, I've watched some bowl games this holiday season, but I haven't tuned into a ton, and I'll tell you why. It's just I just think I think we need to relook at what we're doing in bowl season. We need to make the postseason something that is really strived for. Does a 12-team playoff do it? Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how it pans out next year. I'm not giving up on it, but I do know that there were 12 teams that could honestly say they deserve to be in some kind of spot to obviously see extra games in an extended part of the year where they can prove themselves. Because I do think sometimes that 4-team playoff or even that BCS lineup where you were only getting 2 teams was a little unfair, because I feel like, you look at how Washington, who was still undefeated, but you look at how Washington, Alabama, and for the most part, I would say, Texas, all of them would have not stemmed so well from a BCS type format, because I think their loss early in the year would have weighed a little bit heavier. I think Texas's loss to Oklahoma, I think Alabama's loss to Texas would have weighed a lot heavier than, say, a Georgia loss to a then Alabama SEC champion, and so on and so forth. So it definitely adds some excitement to what's going on, but I think that there's hope with this 12-team playoff. I'm curious to see how it all pans out. I'm curious to see how the conferences line up. I'm curious to see how um, some of the new conference teams that are entering into new conferences, like the Big Ten, obviously the SEC, with Oklahoma and Texas, and then the ACC, where there's so much talk about Florida State trying to get out of the ACC. The dollar amount it's going to cost them to get out of the ACC alone is, I mean, how much money does Florida State have left between still paying Jimbo Fisher, still paying Willie Taggart? Um, I mean, who knows? They're still paying so many people in Florida State on top of what, $500 million or some crazy number to go to another conference that are not even guaranteed. SEC doesn't have any interest in Florida State right now. Number one, because you would think Florida would vote them out immediately. I just think it creates a little bit of a recruiting nightmare right there. So I don't think Florida would like that too much, and they have a heavy vote in what's going on. I think when it brings Texas into play and Oklahoma into play, it's a different turn as far as recruiting, and it's an added, two teams that can bring money to the conference. There's big money there. So those are the two things. But let's look at Orange Bowl preview. Excited. 4 p.m. tomorrow, Hard Rock Stadium. What's exciting for Florida State? I'll tell you. When you look at Florida State and you look at the X factor, there's a lot of players that are not playing. You look at, first off, you look at, starting quarterbacks. So like what should have been and what you're in now. So obviously, when we thought that, Tate Rodemaker from Florida State was going to come in here and, he was basically your second string quarterback, but he was the guy that was going to just be the hope and prayer and take them, try to take what's left of their season and go try to put it on the, put it on the back of the running backs, put it on the back of the defense, and hopefully they can do enough at that spot to, Travis Hunter. Obviously, he adds. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say Travis Hunter, the starting quarterback for Florida State. He has a Jordan Travis. He has a lot. I mean, if Jordan Travis doesn't get hurt, Florida State's they're in. I mean, the committee said it. So we knew that the quarterback spot would be a problem with Rodemaker. Well, then, it turns over. Now you got third string quarterback coming in there. And now you have 19 players on top of that saying they're not going to be there, including starting running back, multiple starting wide receivers, multiple starting defensive ends, multiple starting cornerbacks. I don't really know what kind of game we're going to see tomorrow night. I would say when you look at it, do you see two teams that might show up and, they might show up and be a little rusty? Yeah, but my concern about the whole thing is that, Florida State struggled with Louisville. And even though Georgia's going to have some players out that, hit the portal, they still have a lot of players that are not declared yet, but they're going to be playing in this game. Now, how much you'll see of them, I have no idea. I do think you'll see Javon Bullard, obviously Tyke Smith. If I was a betting man, I would say Bullard's coming back. Tyke Smith, I think he has a COVID year, but I think you'll see Tyke Smith back next year. Don't quote me on that. I could get startled, but I think, when you look at the year he had, if he could tag another year to that, he could really add to his draft status. He could be a known player next year going into the draft rather than we know this of him when he was injured, things of that nature. He came back this year. He had a pretty good year. He could really have a standout year next year and really up his draft status. I think Kamari Lassiter, there's rumor going around that he may return. You're reading tweets, you're reading, Instagram stuff, where they're like, run it back, things of that nature. I don't know. I mean, I would say with Kamari, like, I don't know if he has much to prove. I think he's a second, third round lock. If not, I mean, could he sneak in the first round? Depends on how bad somebody needs a cornerback coming off. I think The only reason he wouldn't come off day one is because I think there's a couple cornerbacks that are going to come off day one, but I think that there's so much need out there in the first round sometimes for offensive line, for defensive line. Obviously, the quarterback position, wide receiver, you don't really see a lot of running backs going in the first round. But there's so much need for defensive linebackers, D line, offensive line, and quarterbacks and wide receivers that sometimes the secondary, unless it's just an absolute knockout, game changing talent, which I do think Kamari is that. I just don't know if anybody has that pick in their bag first and second round. Could he come back and elevate his draft status? Yeah. I mean, with NIL and everything going on right now, like, do I think he should? I mean, it completely changes a lot of our decisions that we talk about whether players should go or come. I mean, it stems basically from, is there money there? Is there NIL money there? Because second, third round signing bonuses and pay is not life changing money. Not like first round Brock Bowers type possibility of life changing money. Not like, some of the opt outs that, I mean, we haven't heard things from some teams. I haven't heard anything from Marvin Harrison Jr. I still don't think he's staying. I still don't think he's going to even play. But a lot of hush hush going on, and I get it. But I think Kamari Lassiter could get something for coming back this year. But I think if he doesn't, there's still a lot of hype there with Ellis Robinson coming in. I think Ellis Robinson's going to start next year. I've just heard so many good things about this kid. You're looking at some possibilities of some position changes on the defensive side. I've heard a lot about Michael Williams. You're going to see him a little bit tomorrow night at outside linebacker instead of an edge, rushing the quarterback. I think that gave him a lot of wind in his sail to come back for his senior year and try to make a push to get a higher draft status. As you've seen it right now, I mean, you've seen a lot of changes in the guard going on in the NFL right now, with a lot less people with their hand down. If they're not, 290, 300 or above, their hands out on the ground and they're not rushing, they're not coming off that defensive line. So a lot of those guys that are, more in that 230 to 270 status, they're kind of being pushed to either drop some weight and go play linebacker, or they're being, pushed to be that hybrid type where, they may play edge on third and fourth down, but they're not going to be down there in the trenches when the run game's going on. So there's a different kind of thing going on there. And then obviously you look on the offensive side of the ball. You look at Amarius Mims. Yes, he's in Miami this week. Came in there late. I think he got there Thursday. And obviously Brock Bowers did show up. I mean, if I'm guessing with these two guys, I'm thinking they're gonna pull the, Kirby's gonna keep it really tight, and he's gonna pull the, they're just not 100% healthy, and they can't really 100%. Both of them had somewhat, you saw them both had injuries in the SEC championship, and so I don't know. I just think they're gonna lean towards, if they're not 100% healthy, they don't play. They may dress. And that's happened a lot this year. I mean, especially with Brock. If he hadn't been 100%, if he can't practice, you can't play. And I don't know how much Mims and Bowers have been practicing. Obviously, you can get hurt in practice as well. So as much as playing one game against another team, practices can go the same route. So I don't think you'll see Brock. If you do, it's going to be in scenarios where, I don't know, just scenarios. He's not going to have to block a lot. He's not going to have to. I think you're going to see him in some special, play type formations where he's running and catching the ball. But as far as blocking and running and the things we use him for, I don't think they're going to do that if he's used at all. If they didn't play another down, they've done great things for Georgia, and they should definitely not even play in this game. It means nothing. There's 20 players from Florida State. That's not going to be in this game. And I don't mean it. It doesn't mean anything. I applaud Kirby and Georgia for not having a ton of opt-outs. I applaud Lab McConkey for being that guy to go, I'm on the fence. I don't know if I'm going or if I'm staying. But however, Georgia did a lot for him. They brought him through. They coached him up, and they got him where he's at with his hard work. And that partnership has been obviously super valuable to him. He's an incredible talent. I think he's going to be playing on Sundays. I don't know if he's a first, second, or third round pick. If anybody of the talk if anybody of the Kamaris, um, the Bowers, the Mims, the McConkey talk, out of all those four, I think McConkey would be the one that I would think is going to stay. I think he has a lot to offer if he stays. I think if he's healthy this year, he could get a second, third round status. Whereas I think right now he's really like more of a. I'm really going off size and just the size and speed, that inside slot receiver type thing, not your go getter outside. I mean, then again, you got your Tyreeks out there, and I don't see him as that. He's not that burner guy out there. So I think he's like if he declares, I think he's like a fifth, sixth, seventh type guy. So I think he does have some room that he could really come in and be healthy this year and put some good numbers up. I think that Ladd should come back. That's not being selfish. Do I think Brock should go? Yeah, I think Brock should go. I think Mims should go. I think Mims has shown what he can do. I think he's a first day top 15 pick. I think Brock's a top 5 pick, 10 for sure, top 5 pick. I would say if anybody with any pass catching needs or offense needs should go for Brock Bowers, because I think he can offer even more than a Marvin Harrison. I'm just saying it. I'm not being partial. I'm just saying in this day and age, you look at some of these teams that know how to get their tight ends the ball. I mean, look at the Ravens this year, Mark Andrews and some of the backup tight ends, and look what Monken's been able to do with that offense. I mean, geez, man. Talk about taking the Ravens to another level. Monken's done a great job with that offense. It showed why he was such a great play caller at Georgia and why he was a part of all these national championships, because he got the ball to players in crucial situations. But I do think that Ladd should come back. I think he should. Will you see Dejon back? I don't know. I'm just wondering if these guys are like, 6th year, COVID year. I don't really know. What do I have to gain? It's a really big room. You got your Andrew Pauls, you got your Robinsons, you got your Branson Robinson, you got your, Phillips who's coming in, you got ETN coming in, you got, I'm not even names for you. You got Cash Jones coming back. There's a lot of players coming back in that room. I don't think you see Dejon and Kendall. Would I like Dejon back another year? Heck yeah. I think Milton's definitely gone. I think he would do himself some good to definitely go, especially as injury prone as he is. He's healthy. Hopefully he gets through the Orange Bowl healthy, and I think it's a good time for him to try the waters to see if somebody wants. We've seen what those second, third, and fourth round Georgia backs are doing right now in the league. I think he would do really well for a team that's looking for. I don't look at him as a versatile, catch it out of the backfield type guy, but there are people that are looking for his skill set. And so yeah, and then as we preview, the game tomorrow, I think a lot of things that were day one thoughts on this game are not even, they're not really even thoughts anymore, as with players that are missing and over 20 players being out. And it's just been a weird end of the season. It really has. It's just the NIL and transfer portal and opt-outs and bowl snubs, and it's just been one of those. It's been one of those times and puzzles that when you put it together, it kind of just put a damper, in my opinion, on bowl season. If you want my honest opinion, I would think if I'm looking at previewing tomorrow, I'm thinking what's gonna make this game close on paper. Like right now, like I'm not gonna pick the game. I mean, I am, but I do think Georgia's gonna win the game. I think, how does Florida State win the game tomorrow? I think if that defense just has one more like stellar performance like they did at Louisville, and some of those games that defense kept them in the game, I think that's how they could possibly do something. But I just don't know how. I don't know how they get points on the board. Backup running back, back to top 2 wideouts not there. Benson and Benson not being there, Tate Rodemaker out. I don't know. Like I don't really know what they can put together was talking to a good buddy of mine today about the game, who's a big Florida State fan. And opening line for Georgia is 14, and I think that's a very safe number. I think this thing might get ugly, um, uh, but I think defenses will keep both of these teams. I think defense will keep both of these teams in the game. Um, and I think scoring wise, I think Georgia has a lot, obviously, easier chance of scoring, better opportunity. And I think Carson Beck I don't think he has anything to prove, but I think he has he can kind of start his Heisman candidacy tomorrow night. I really think he can. And I love that we had I think it was 18 or 19 early enrollees at, bowl practices and traveling with the team. That's crucial, man. That's crucial to that culture starting and them seeing what culture is like and knowing what they're stepping into in spring practice and that group that showed up in bowl prep practices of incoming freshmen that are just literally should be going, should be participating in, your holidays at high school right now. They're getting an early step on what the culture and everything is like. By the time they take the field in the fall, some of those guys are going to feel like it's their second year because they're going to have a pretty good feel for what Kirby's like and their position coaches is like and things of that nature. And so very exciting to see them in there and things of that nature. I feel like there's a lot of positivity going on. It started out very grim as far as everybody was like, well, what's going to be left of these two teams once they take the field. And tell you what, man, it's going to be really cool to see a lot of these young guys for Georgia play tomorrow. It's going to be it's going to be interesting to see all of them out there on the field playing because Florida State's going to have a lot of young kids out there. Georgia's going to have a lot of youth out there. But Georgia did have, or on paper will have, a ton less opt-outs. So I think, at the end of the day, I think it's easier to talk about like what we see happening tomorrow as far as how we think the game will go per se. But I do think it could get out of hand. I think I think this Florida State team is going to look incredibly different. They had a great signing class. They had a lot of great things happen in the offseason, had a lot of great NIL portal type transfer stuff. But Brock Bowers is coming in there. He's thrown for over 3,500 yards this year, 22 TDs to 6 interceptions, only been sacked 10 times all year. That's not bad considering this guy's not considered to be a very mobile quarterback. But completion percentage above 70%, which is incredible. Obviously, another story is Gunnar Stockton coming in as the backup quarterback for Georgia on tomorrow. Obviously, Brock Vandegrift heading out to Kentucky. You're going to see. You're probably going to see a lot of running backs tomorrow. You're going to see a lot of running backs. You're obviously going to see some Dejon and some Kendall. You're going to see some Cash Jones, some Rod Robinson, some Andrew Paul. I honestly think that you're going to see a little bit of different scenario in the punt return game. You're going to get to see what Anthony Evans can do in the kick returning game. I don't know if Mekhi Muse is playing or not. I also don't know, which of those transfer portal players may have. I do know that that I know one player. I think it was Harris is going to play in the game after he said he was going to the portal. But that'll be exciting to see. You'll get to see a lot more of the tight end room. I think, like I said, I think you see, if any, very few snaps for Brock. But you'll get to see, obviously, Pierce Spurlin. You get to see Lawson Lucky. You get to see Oscar Delp. A heavy dose of them. You get to see some young receivers. Hopefully you get to see if Ra-Ra's healthy. You get to see if, Arian Smith. We didn't really see a lot of Arian Smith this year. He's a deep threat. He had some hands problems early in the year. That'll be interesting to see. I'm interested to see Anthony Evans. And so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. A lot of defense. I mean, when you look at the defense, it's kind of left. I'm interested to see. Smile didn't travel earlier in the week, but he's definitely with them now. Um, so it'll be interested to see C.J. Allen playing again. Everett, obviously. Don't know a lot about Stackhouse and Zion Logue and Christian Miller's decision about what they're going to do. I think you might see one of those guys back. I don't know, maybe two. I don't know. Well, obviously after tomorrow, the new year, going to hear a lot about what they're going to decide to do as far as their choices of going into the draft. But interested to see Tramel Walthor, Jordan Hall, who's going to be a vital part of that D line next year. We'll get to see a little bit of Janelle Aguario, and really excited just to see that secondary. Maybe some Julian Humphreys. I don't know if Julian will play or not. He was in a non-contact jersey most of the week, so I don't know how much you'll see of him. Samuel Mpemba will be good to see. Terrell Ingram's Dawkins. I'm just really looking forward to seeing some of these young players play. I think they'll have a lot of opportunity to, and I hope it's a good game. But honestly, if it's a good game, it's not going to be. If it's a tight ball game, it's because Georgia is not playing up to their potential tomorrow. Because I feel like Florida State's missing a ton of players, and so this one shouldn't really even be close. So I think Georgia tomorrow in 14 is a very tasteful prediction. I think the 14 has to be because Florida State's defense plays, really lights out. But as we look at, let's preview some of the other games that are going to be in there, and then we'll do some final thoughts on the end of the year stuff, and maybe even talk about what we predict next year. Look at the schedule, things of that nature. But obviously, you got Georgia. You got Monday, January 1st. You got the Fiesta Bowl with Liberty, Oregon. Exciting right there. Exciting for Liberty. A lot of people looked at this game and were like, "Holy cow! How in the world did A, Oregon get this, and B, Liberty get this?" I think this is a tale of two teams who have one who had high expectations but couldn't get it done literally against one team, and the other, high expectations, and they're being given the opportunity to go, hey, like, you can measure this now up against a team that we feel like is going crazy insane in the right direction. I mean, Oregon and Dan Lanning have a lot going the right direction. I mean, I think between them and between Ole Miss, I mean, Ole Miss is in the NIL signing their life away, man. Like Lane Kiffin's like, it almost feels like Lane's like next year is gonna, if it's gonna be my year to really do some damage, get in that 12-team playoff and do some damage, it's gonna be next year. And they've signed some major hitters. One being Walter Nolan out of Texas A&M, but they've signed some major hitters from Ole Miss, and I'm sure, Oregon wish they would have got their hands on Walter Nolan. But that's going to be a great game. I think that Liberty's, I mean, right now, the spread right now, I think is right around 17, I think. I think they're giving Oregon 17 in this one, which that's merely off of Oregon's offense. I think if you just look at anybody else's offense, this is more like a 7-10 point spread type thing. I don't think Liberty's a pushover. And then you look at the Peach Bowl being played tomorrow night. It's the night game after that 4:00 game on ESPN at 8:00 for Mercedes-Benz Ole Miss versus Penn State. Everybody remembers the Peach Bowl from last year where we rung in the new year on the 31st. Actually, it wasn't on the 30th last year. Oh, that was because it was a top 2-tier playoff bowl, but rang in the new year with the field goal that changed everything versus Ohio State. It took Georgia to the national championship. Very, very, very exciting. We won't be ringing in the new year this year with any excitement other than possibly from an Orange Bowl victory earlier in the day on Saturday. But all in all, like Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, Ole Miss, Penn State, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be based off a lot of defense. Franklin's going back to play SEC team where he came out of. He knows Kiffin very well. He knows SEC pedigree very well. I think this will be a really good game. I think it will come down to who makes more mistakes. I think Ole Miss's defense is going to struggle in this game. I think they get a lot of help next year, but Ole Miss's defense struggled a ton this year. So I'm looking to see if they can, get healthy. I think they've gotten healthy in the last 2 weeks or so, 2-3 weeks. But I think Ole Miss's defense will be the tail of the tape of who wins this game. I know Ole Miss can score, but I just don't know if they can keep Penn State off the board. And Penn State has a really good defense as well. So if I'm making predictions, I'm going to make the predictions in a minute, but I'm making predictions like that's the struggle that's going to happen with Ole Miss. And then obviously tonight, going on here in a few minutes. What's going on right now? I'm so sorry. I'm an hour behind. We got Missouri, Ohio State going at it right now in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl tonight. So obviously, if I'd have been prepared better, I could tell you if Marvin Harrison was playing right now. But I look at this game as this is a game changer type game, regardless of who's playing in this game for Eli Drinkowitz and Missouri. I think this game is a game changer as far as what people look at with Missouri going into the portal with Luther Burden, with Cook, and all these players coming back next year, and then hitting the portal and getting much help again from the offensive line again. They had a great draft class. I said it again. They had a great recruiting class. A lot of good things going on in Missouri. This would be a early candle light. I mean, it would light the candle early for Missouri as favorites to be one of those teams that comes out of the SEC into that 12-team playoff. And it's going to be a gauntlet next year. And that's a whole nother show. We're going to preview that in January and February a little bit. But it would be a huge, huge push for the next year if Missouri could beat Ohio State. And it would also possibly, depending on who's playing in this game, put a real damper on what Ryan Day's future. I don't know. I definitely think Ryan Day's back next year, but I think it's hot seat year for Ryan Day. If you don't beat Michigan next year, I think it doesn't matter what he would have to not beat Michigan, go to the 12-team playoff, and win the national championship for them to not fire him next year. But that's early hot seat talk. I think I started this year saying Jimbo Fisher would not be at Texas A&M. He didn't. He's not anymore. But they'll be paying him for a long, long time to do absolutely nothing or to go and commentate for ESPN or ABC or SEC Net. So somebody for free, merely. So and then obviously when you look at playoff picture, you got Monday. You got Monday, January 1, the Rose Bowl game, 5:00, Michigan, Alabama. And then you got the 8:45 game, Texas, Washington, right around the corner on Monday. It's going to be two great games, but let's pick them really quick before we get offline tonight. Thank you for joining, if you did, to Dogs Down South. Make sure you subscribe. We're on TikTok now, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all those people. Tell your friends at dogsdownsouth.com. Looking forward to this. Looking forward to this kind of change in branding as we get into the end of the year and the new year, and also going to be adding a little bit of a co-host with me for most of next year, so that'll be fun. So we'll both kind of be doing some sessions. We'll do some invites of some people coming on, talk through it. Really look for season 2 of podcasting through rebranding and Dogs Down South to really take off. It was all fun this year, but we hope it takes off this next year. So please tell somebody, subscribe, share, do everything for me. Let's get these subscribers up. I'm blessed to have 56, but I'd love to have within the next 3 months 156 to go off of to start the season. But let's look at these games. So obviously we looked at Georgia, we looked at Florida State. I do think Georgia's going to win this game. I think they're 14-point favorites. I think Florida State's going to have an incredible night defensively to be able to hold off Georgia. Georgia wins this one. Too much offense and enough defense. I just cannot see them putting up a lot of numbers on offense. It's going to have to be one of those barn burner baseball scores, 3-2, something like that. It's not going to do that. I mean, Georgia's going to score. So I think Georgia wins this game big. If they don't, it will not be pretty at halftime nor at the end for Kirby. Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, Ole Miss, Penn State. I like Penn State in this one. I'll tell you what I think. I think Penn State has the defense to do some good things against Ole Miss, and I think Penn State can score. I think Ole Miss's defense is not where it needs to be still, unless they got really, really healthy. But I also know they got a lot of people in the portal that is going to help them next year. You're going to a lot to talk about with, and I'm really excited about, obviously, the game tomorrow night, but I'm really excited about as we close the season, getting ready to preview next year, obviously, and this new alignment with the SEC, this top two teams going to the SEC championship. There's no division. There's some teams that usually play each other next year. They're not going to be playing each other next year. So tons and tons to talk about in the SEC on Dogs Down South as we get into 2024, 2025 with this new aligned SEC, bringing Texas and Oklahoma in here. But I do think that Penn State takes this game. I think they win. I think they win by around 10 points, anywhere from 7 to 10 points in this game. I'm not going to call the Goodyear Cotton Bowl, but as far as the two games, we'll do Alabama, Michigan first. Rose Bowl, number 4 Alabama, number 1 Michigan. This is a toughie right here. I think if Alabama can do what they did against Georgia, I think this is a win for Alabama. I'm not betting against Nick Saban. I will tell you that I do think that if Alabama plays up to the caliber of what they did against Georgia and what they can the rest of these next 2 games, I think that they go on and they don't shock the world. I mean, it doesn't shock the world for Alabama to come in as a 4 seed. But I think Alabama beats Michigan on Monday. I do think that. I think it's another questionable game by Harbaugh, and Kenny is the Big Ten and Michigan ready for, something like SEC opponents in the top 12 for next year. So I have Alabama in this one, beating Michigan to go to the national championship, and then Texas and Washington, All-State Sugar Bowl, 8:45. This one's a closey right here. I'm concerned about Washington because I've seen them, what they look like in the stretch. And I think Oregon's offense is something that is hard to control, but I do think that Texas's offense is as hard to control, but Texas's defense is a little bit better than Oregon's offense right now. I think Lanning's got it going the right direction. I think you're going to see Lanning's defense really start taking off the next few years to add to the complexity of what the offense is bringing to the table. But I do think that Texas wins this game. And I think you're gonna see an Alabama-Texas rematch in the national championship. And I do think you're going to see Alabama win again. It's my prediction. I think Alabama wins it. I think they find a way to win. They find a way. It's Nick Saban, man. It's Nick Saban. You can't count him out. You can't, no matter what his points, no matter what he comes in behind, no matter what he comes in ahead. I will tell you that pretty much I feel like the national championship was played on the field for the SEC championship. So if that's the case and Alabama wins, they deserved it. I'd much rather want to see that, obviously. I do think Alabama beats Texas. I think they get their revenge. And so that's how I got it. So, coming down to the close of the season, it's sad. It's sad. It's been a sad little drought of no college football the last few weeks. And so, but I will say as we close, excuse me one second. As we close tonight and as we close down 2023, I'm already getting ahead of myself. As we close down 2023 and head into 2024, excited. My concerns for 2024 are merely one thing, and that's NIL. I'm concerned with NIL. I'm really concerned at what it's going to make college football, what the future of college football looks like. And so that's my one concern going into 2024. I'm not really concerned with schedules or revamping of conferences or what's the 12-team playoff going to look like. That's all going to be fine and dandy. I think that's going to help college football a lot. But I'm really concerned what NIL is doing to college football right now. And merely for the teams like, the Colorado States, the Utahs, the Cals, the the Texas Techs, the Houstons, I don't know, man. I just don't know how they can continue to field really, really competitive teams that not can compete just for a conference title, but that can compete for a national championship in a 12-team playoff. And I think you're going to see a huge divide there, and I think that you know, the college football, committee is going to allow that for a while at least. Yes, there has to be a way to do name, image, and likeliness, and players do bring a lot of money into universities and things of that nature. But my humble opinion, as 2023 comes to a close and 2024 comes in, is let them make money off their NIL stuff, autographs, jerseys, percentage of jersey sales, all those things. But as far as like putting out cold hard cash to get players to come play for you, I don't agree with that. So, but man, great year regardless of win or loss tomorrow. It'll be great to see those players. It'll be great to see Georgia get on the field again and play one last game for 2023. Hoping for a victory. I know all Dog fans are. And then just hoping everybody comes out healthy and we can get into, Kirby's ready to probably breathe a little bit and then get back in the weight room. So happy final few bowl watching days. And I hope everyone has an incredible 2024 start. Can't wait to start really looking into some of these recruits getting going. And we'll be on intermittently talking about previewing the new SEC lineup, previewing the new SEC formats and 12-team formats, and looking at recruits and getting ready for National Signing Day in February. And Georgia's still in the running for a few portal players. They're still in the running for a few players that are left out there from early signing period, and so there's still a few players to get out there, and then that'll get us right out of February into March, and we're right back into the thick of things. So thank you for a great year on behalf of myself and all the listeners and everybody else out there that's joined and posted and shared and everything like that. Thank you so much for a really incredible podcasting start for 2023, and I look forward to 2024. So on that note, happy new year. Thank you for following Dogs Down South. Share, and I look forward to seeing you guys in 2024. Go Dogs.